Hello, and welcome to another episode of Frame and Reference. I'm your host, Kenny McMillan, and today we're talking with Alejandro Mejia about his work on the film Son of Monarchs, which just won one of the prizes at Sundance just recently, and it's well-deserved. It is a gorgeous-looking film. Alejandro absolutely knocked it out of the park. I spend the first few minutes of this interview gushing about it like a nerd, so highly recommend that you seek it out and watch it yourself. With all the Sundance films, I don't know when they'll be made available or distributed, but when they are, seek it out. This was another one where I only had him for a half hour, so we just kind of get right into it to talk about his work on the film, and as such, in keeping with the theme, I won't spend too much time on this intro. So, if you are interested in naturalistic lighting, if you're interested in anamorphics, if you're interested in good, just solid modern cinematography, this is the podcast for you. I think you'll thoroughly enjoy it. So without further ado, here's my interview with Alejandro Mejia. So to start, I watched the film last night. Buddy, gorgeous work. I was really impressed. Talk to me about everything. All the lighting just seems so controlled and so just perfect indoors and out. Talk to me about what your approach was to lighting outdoors especially, but then also obviously indoors.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it was very important to respect the natural locations. I'm coming from a still photography background, so I think, and then I switched sometimes between documentary and fiction film. And especially from this one, I was coming from 499, which is another feature film I shot that is a hybrid that I got the best cinematography at Tribeca last year. And I was jumping.
On that, by the way.
Yeah, I was jumping just from that project to this one. So I think I was carrying that influence. And for 99, I didn't use any like artificial light or film light. It was all available light. So I think especially in the natural light, I feel very like confident of like observing and controlling and trying to shoot at the hours or like moving the characters in a zone where I can have a little more control. And another thing is Alexis, the director, he was very specific, especially indoors with the lab, that everything needs to be accurate in the way they put the microscope. They use the light, how it is. So that was, I will say at the end, it was respecting the nature of the real locations. You know?
Sure. What was, so it was mostly like a grip show, like a lot of diffusion, neg. What was your package there? What were you dealing with?
Yeah. I mean, and outside, I was using I used like the negative in one side, like 12 by 12, 20 by 20 when we're in exteriors. And I like to use also like some diffusion as a bounce, that is not too hard. And sometimes I put also the black fabric on the floor, and it depends But for example, in the butterflies, I was not able to do that. That was all like camera and lenses, because we have to be very respectful with the colonies of butterflies there. So no reflectors, nothing. It was just like camera and lenses.
Yeah. What was your camera and lens package? It was very, I assume, anamorphics. They were real beautiful, fudgy around the edges, real classic vintage look. Hawks, maybe? Yeah. That was my guess.
No, it was the Lomo round front, the Russian ones, and the Alexa Ari Alexa Mini. That's one package that I use a lot. And for 99, I shot with also anamorphic lenses, but the Kawa, the Japanese. On this one, I switched to the Russian look, and and I was doing some tests, and I think my f-stop was around 5.6, where it's like kind of the sweet spot of the lens, and also combining with these Steadicam movements, that we were a lot like that, like kind of floating as a butterfly kind of thing around the character. That was kind of our approach on that sense.
Yeah, that I've always said that the first scene of any movie really dictates, it tells the audience what we're going to be doing here. And that opening scene, just like the shots of the butterflies are really just beautiful and sort of ethereal almost. And then the dissection thing,
Hmm.
just, man, you are the king of backlight, my bud. Like, really
Yeah, I
good.
was like, yeah, yeah. I love that. I love backlight because I think for me that I always start that way. No, I put a backlight and then from there I'm like, okay, then I need or I don't need. And I also love to use the ND filters, of course, in the camera and the Pola. That was my package on filters. It's funny because these lenses, the Lomo, you cannot use a matte box because the focus moves like with the matte box. So I was not able. Sometimes my AC made like a little arm that we were putting like in front of the lens, especially in interiors. And then we use diopters for all these shots that
Oh, really?
yeah. And only actually not in the section, but on the tattoo, I used the Master Prime 100 macro lens. That was the only difference. And and we connect the Canon C300 to the microscope directly. There's an adapter, and you connect that, and then you have all this like new world in front of you.
Yeah, I was going to ask because the microscope shots are very, like, they fit exactly with the look of the rest of the film, which I wasn't. You would assume a microscope. I was like, either this is being faked somehow, or something. But yeah, those were awesome. So you did that with a C300.
Yeah, with C300, and that's one. Sometimes I think, yeah, the C300 it's a good combination with the ARRI. It's kind of a good B cam. You can like kind of make it look alike, and of course, that was a good work of the colorist Eli Akoka, which is in France. He's famous. He's the colorist of Blues, the Warmest Color, and his dad is also the colorist of Amélie. So that's when they built this like studio in France, in Paris. So I was able to work with him in this one, and I think he really made like a good job. I think it's essential also that part of like the colorist and understanding, especially now at the distance with the pandemic, was crazy.
Totally. Yeah, I was going to ask, what was the look in camera that you were getting? Like, how were you exposing your image versus what the colorist did?
Yeah, I mean, I developed a lot, where I was more than a look for the movie. I was controlling the highlights, no, especially in Mexico because the light there moves like faster and it's brighter, especially like now in the winter, no. Here in New York in the winter you have this more like side light that stays there more time, and so that was easier to control in that sense. But then I built this lot for Mexico to control the highlights, that I was always like, oh, I'm not gonna like cross that border, and respecting, like, in terms of the look, it was a little bit desaturated because I don't like the Rec 709. If it looks like so TV for me, but it was just as a reference. Then after that, we were like checking and talking with the colorist, and he totally understood that it was like a very naturalistic look that we were trying to get. And then we started to share references, and like I was working a little bit on Photoshop, like sending him just mini corrections, and then from there also we decide how to difference the present and the past, which was the other thing. We were like, no, we don't want to go black and white, we don't want to get crazy with that. It's like a very subtle little 2 3 points more of less saturation on that one in the past than the present, and that was it, you know?
Were there other films that you were kind of looking at that informed the look, or what was the deal there?
The deal was more like the real life. Like I usually I love to get references from like photo books. I have a big collection. So also I'm coming, as I said before, from still photography world, and I find always there are more inspiration than in other movies, because movies I sometimes I feel like, oh, we're gonna copy, and I feel not really comfortable getting into that world. So in this in this sense, we were exploring like Alex Webb, like famous photographer that he has like books about Mexico. He has these like strong colors and compositions, and also I had the chance like back in the days to have as a mentor Graciela Iturbide, which is also a Mexican famous photographer, more black and white, but all this like Day of Death and like small town vibe is like coming from her. And then for the macro world, we were like Alexis, the director, took me to this. He has a colleague, it's also a French guy that he was doing a conference. I forgot his name now, but he was making this. Transforming genetically the butterfly wings, and he built like an alphabet through that. So I was in this conference and all these like slides, and then he shared to me and by email. That was like also a completely new world for me. And but yeah, we were kind of respecting also the locations. No, when I went the first time to the lab and I saw this like pink purple light where it was like one scientist working, I was like, wow, this is the way they work. That's kind of trippy. And they were like, yeah. So then I was like, okay. So I took pictures and I was trying to replicate as much as I could, like the real vibe, because Alexis was very precise on that. Like the lab needs to be exactly the same. I don't want the scientist telling me the microscope is wrong or like, no, which it happens all the time in these kind of films. And so we were respecting and finding also that the scientist world is kind of very similar than the art world, no? In that sense, like they are like more introspective people getting in their own offices and like they decoration. So we were like kind of like influenced by that, no?
Yeah, I was actually. That's funny you bring up the colored lighting, because in my head, when there's a scene kind of halfway maybe through the movie where he's just completely lit by purple, and I did have the thought, I was like, all right, getting a little creative here, but you're saying that was just what it looked like there.
Yeah, that's and the same with Mexico, no? Like a lot of people is asking me like, oh, I didn't know that like Mexico looks like that, and I was like, yeah, because we have always the idea that it looks like in Sicario or all these movies, no, that it looks sepia, dusty, and like creamy, and I was like, no, I think, also a new place for all of us, this little town in the middle of Michoacan, where all the butterflies, they come in the winter. And we discovered that place. And I was like, for me, it was like a little town of Europe, kind of that vibe, with all these like colors and then the forest, by itself. It's a big source of inspiration.
Yeah, that valley, I guess, was just beautiful. Mm-hmm. Those landscapes you got were awesome. I wanted to ask about the car scene. There's a car scene where you're getting these sort of overs while they're driving. How was that rigged up?
Yeah, that was like the classic rig from the window, like that you put the camera. Actually, they cut it on the film, but it was like a big sequence where he comes out of the bus and then he's walking towards the truck, and we were not cutting, and I was like kind of panning, and then the car was leaving with the camera there. But
really?
yeah, and I was like, oh damn, that was not on the film. I mean, they cut it because it was too long. But sometimes I like to do this kind of magic things where you're like, oh, how no? But then yeah, it was like the classic rig outside, like side, and then the other one just trying to combine. Sometimes I was putting a little light, I think Astera inside, just to have a little like feel there, because like the forest is also, it's big contrast. And these lenses, I think that one of the characteristics is like they're a little contrasty. They're, for example, the Kawa are like more like soft in the contrast, more creamy. But these ones, they're already like, you have to, and especially in Mexico where the light is very hard, you have to be careful with that, and like not get too crazy.
Yeah, what made you switch from? What was the reasoning behind switching to the Lomos?
Yeah,
if you were already comfortable with the other ones.
Yeah, because I think I always try to be open and experiment in new projects, because I think I don't like to be like in a comfort zone where it's like, oh, I find my Cook S4, it looks amazing with Alexa Mini, and I'm just gonna go that way. Because for me, it's kind of boring, and and I need this challenge when I'm shooting, no, where like how I'm gonna solve. And that was the example in 499 that I didn't use any light. It was all available light. I was in anamorphic lenses shooting this hybrid documentary fiction film, and I was very focused. Like every frame, I was really thinking how I can make it look poetic without having even a gaffer, So in this next project, I was like, okay, I cannot repeat myself, and I have to experiment with these other lenses. I was like sure that I want to keep it on anamorphic, but I was like, I want to use I mean, of course, I have previous experience on short films with both, and but it's not the same when you're like in this long-term project. But I think I'm very happy with the decision, because I think for the character it was good. Like he's an amazing actor, Tenoch, and I think we kind of really connect visually and like personally in the film, with these lenses.
Yeah, no. Again, I could say how much I love the film over and over and over again. Trust me, I love it. What?
Thank you.
Talk to me about your transition from being a photographer into a cinematographer. How'd that happen?
That happened when like the digital world came. I was studying photography when I was 17, like with film photography, and I was able to also. I went to Norway as exchange student, and I had the chance to work with a photographer there, Leif Gabrielsen, and also see this like minimalism in the maximum expression there in Norway, And so when I went back to Mexico, I was doing these little projects with some governmental grants, and then I think when like the digital cameras, I started to feel like, oh, I'm losing something. But at the same time, when I was still doing still photography, I was always bringing my audio recorder. Then I switched to a Handycam video recorder and like always shooting my friends and things like that. So then I went to the visual arts school, and after that, when I graduated, before that, I started to do my practice in a production company in Mexico City. It was like 1 hour. I was growing up 1 hour outside Mexico City. So and then I started to get more and more involved into that, and then I think it was this art exhibition that I got in here in Columbus, Ohio, and I remember on the plane back to Mexico that I was like, this is it. I think from here I just gonna switch into film and try to do something there, but yeah, it's not easy as of course as Mexican I got so many no's, and finally, I can say, the last 3-4 years, it's been amazing with like the awards and the people reaching out, and that's kind
awesome. I'm definitely gonna have to check out your other stuff, but based on this, you deserve it, man. What were my other notes here? Top light. I noticed were you a big top light guy? I noticed indoors it seemed kind of toppy, which I'm personally a fan of. Mm-hmm. How are you setting those shots up?
I use, I think, most of the time the top light because I like to light more spaces than people, no? Because for me it's about the atmospheres, and also I grew up like film wise with this mentor also from Hong Kong that came to Mexico, and he was always telling us like less is more, and if you use one light, it's one problem. Two lights is two problems. So you know how many problems you're gonna. And also he was like respect the location, no, in that sense, like feel it, like. And I think also Christopher Doyle, he says that a lot. I took a workshop with him in Mexico as well. And they'll talk about this location feeling, no, that is like the texture of the wall. So that's why for me I came since that time with the idea of like, I have to, if I'm gonna use any light, it needs to go from the top, that is this space where the actors, they can move freely, and doesn't matter sometimes they go out, because. And of course, depends the project, because I've been other projects where the director is like, no, I need the light, like I need to see the face, and So, but in this one, I was having the freedom of like to be more realistic, and I think that the cinema is going in that direction. No, we're more like hyper realistic. Like when I grew up in the 80s, it was more like no Top Gun and this like pink light from the window or purple, and it was more like effects. And now I think that's also school that we learn with Rodrigo Prieto, no, since Amores Perros in 2000, like 20 years ago. Like that movie, I think show us like this like kind of handheld dark but not like powerful dramatic story, like, and it's like it looks like a real life, no, it's not like we. And so I always try to do that, like that you don't notice like exactly where is the light. Of course sometimes it's easier, sometimes not, because depends of time, budget. But yeah, I love using top light.
What fixtures were you using for that? Just like LED panels of some kind?
Yeah, I think I use pretty much the light mat. That's one light that I really like. Now with the light mat 4 spectrum, that you have the colors that also there. I really like that. I use also the quasar in that movie a lot. Like for example, this shot where he's like dreaming, that is blue light with the butterflies, that like a lot of people like stands out with that, and it's just like one bulb of quasar blue light with diffusion, and that was it. No, it's like very simple, but I like the quality. Asteras are very like practical. No, it's like you just put it there, you have the app, and quasar you have to cable them, but the quality is much better on quasar. Sure. In that sense. No,
everyone loves, I mean, every DP I've ever talked to is always talking about the Astera tubes. They're just like, they changed the game.
Yeah.
How were you? I noticed there was a lot of really good, just simple white balance color contrast. How were you approaching that? Like, what were you rating the camera at versus what the light? Obviously, you had natural daylight, but indoors and stuff. What was your approach there?
Yeah, I liked like indoors. I go for like 43, and sometimes I maintain that outside. I think in New York I was like mainly 43 outside. I like to play more in that. I think that color temperature, it's more like less saturated in color. No, for me, like, and I don't remember in Mexico now, but it was like maybe 5, 6, or I was like kind of there. But yeah, but I try to go a little bit less than 56, in general. Like I just sometimes I balance with the wall, or I just start to move, and by my eye I like, okay, I usually have my monitor, the Flanders 17 that I trust, and I go there and I'm like, okay, I manipulate that. And yeah.
Were you using a shooting LUT of any kind? Did you have one already set up with the colorist, or were you just kind of using, I'll worry about it later kind of thing?
Can you repeat? Sorry.
Did you have like a show LUT, like a in camera, like a custom LUT that you had made?
Yeah, I that's the one that I was telling you that I built, and more for like controlling the highlights in Mexico, and I was like a little bit less saturation. And gotcha. mini look, but not like, I have a bunch of ones that I made with colorists, so I choose one that it was just less saturated, and yeah, but I think I keep the contrast because I was worried about these lenses, that I was like, oh, I cannot get too crazy. And but yeah, it was more, in this one I was not too worried of like, oh, I need to make this look. It was more like natural, and then in the color correction, like I know where I want to go, and it's just a matter of communicating that, because that's sometimes the problem, like to get into that place with the colorist. No,
totally. What else? Oh, just coming up, what were some films that you were drawn to, coming up?
Like films that I work on that are gonna come out?
No, like just ones you like. Ones that made you go like, yeah, that's awesome.
At Sundance or in general?
In general, just in life.
In general, yeah. No, in life, I think, of course, I mean, as cinematographer, I really love the work of Gabriel Figueroa, which is this old school Mexican cinematographer that I invite all the people to check his work. He was doing a lot of movies with El Indio Fernandez, that is a Mexican director, kind of the 50s, 40s, and of course I admire the work of Iñárritu. I really love Wong Kar-wai, all these like Hong Kong people. I will say lately, I think Mother of George is one movie that I really like from Bradford Young.
Great DP.
Great DP, great person. I think, what else? I think, in general, I think that's it. That's kind of I love a lot of Asian cinema. That's kind of, but I try to watch like movie or art films are more like my vibe for sure.
Totally. Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite. I came up, my favorite films are like Men in Black, The Matrix.
No, but that's good. That's good. I don't know. I mean, if I could do a film like that, because I have no idea, but because I was like talking with my publicist about that. No, she's like, "Oh, which projects you can see yourself?" And I'm like, like dramas easily. For me, it's like with all these like naturalistic style, is like, I can do that easily. But if an horror film or like a science fiction, which is, I mean, I made a couple of science fiction short films, and it's always very interesting, to explore new ways. But
cool.
I remember Men in Black 3 that they were shooting here around the corner.
Oh yeah. So I gotta let you go here soon, but last two questions. Was there anything on this film that you learned that you think would be good advice for cinematographers listening, and also are there any personal projects that you're working on?
I think, the advice not only in this project is like, we have to keep fighting and be disciplined, and for me the most important thing is like to find your own voice, like to have a signature and style, and it's as Christopher Doyle, he was saying at Camera Image last time, he's like, I'm tired of watching In the Mood for Love in any mood board of any project. So we have to experiment through our personal life. I think that's the best advice, and more observation, less phone. And I think that's where like we're gonna learn so many things through that, to observe like people eating, people dancing, people or the landscapes more through Instagram or Netflix or these other things, and I'm working I'm now in standby with all this pandemia, but I was attached, or I'm still attached to a project with Nam Fu Wang, the director of One Child Nation, to do like a series with her, but we still don't know when. And I'm preparing a new feature film with the actor, with Tenoch. We became really good friends, and we're gonna shoot. We're supposed to be shooting in January, but also the pandemic pushed that. That is in Mexico, but hopefully in April we're gonna be able to start. And we have already a second project in the developing stage, so hopefully awesome. you can check it out.
Yeah. Are you still taking photos?
I mean now with my phone every day. Now it's a big snowstorm here in New York, and I cannot wait to go outside and do some pictures of that. But I have my small Fuji camera. I have my
love the Fuji. I got a XT3. Love that camera.
This is actually like, it's here. Like
there you go.
I don't know. This is the X30 that is small.
Same.
I really
same
love.
Sensor.
And sometimes I do some medium format. This is also my favorite.
Nice.
Like I really love this camera.
Yeah, I got.
But I try.
I was gonna say I have an RB67 or RZ67, but you can't. It's so hard to just walk around with that thing.
And where are you based, Kenny?
Los Angeles.
Okay, cool. And it's like a snowboard on your back, or what is that?
Yeah. I've been a snowboarder my whole life, so I've got
nice.
a couple back there in the office. I have an office now, so I got to
cool.
decorate it. But awesome, man. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I really, really appreciate it. And again, the film is beautiful, so really well done.
No, thank you very much, and I will check your podcast, and thanks a lot.
Appreciate it, man. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Frame and Reference is an Owlbot production. It's produced and edited by me, Kenny McMillan, and distributed by Pro Video Coalition. Our theme song is written and performed by Mark Pelly, and the FNR Mattbox logo was designed by Nate Truax of Truax Branding Company. You can read or watch the podcast you just heard by going to provideocoalition.com or youtube.com/owlbot respectively. And as always, thanks for listening.